Oops, hold on. There we go. Hi, guys. Welcome to Keeping It Real. I'm super excited. First of all, in New Zealand, it is Good Friday and it is our Easter weekend, and I'm so blessed. I have two amazing guests with me today, Dave and Carla. And Dave and Carla are sharing, I just get this feeling like so much. You both are a wealth of wisdom, and just based on your books that I've sort of touched on and seen a little bit about and read a bit about. I mean, I feel like we're going to talk about consciousness and angels and meditation, and as I said to you, we'll just go with where we're going to go with. But please, first of all, thank you for coming through and being here today. I am so honored and so privileged to have so many guests that have got so much wisdom to share. And just based, as I was saying to you before I pressed record, based on what has been shared with me in your bio, you are both an incredible, incredible amount of wisdom. So
Well, it's not our own. It was fed to us.
Yes.
I know.
Yes.
So can we start there? Share with me a little bit about. I know that you met in 1998, and you started meditation together. Is that correct?
That is
That's
correct.
correct. So in 1998, um, I had just finished my residency in Ohio, and I purchased the office where Carla was the office manager, and I was a physician
In Ohio.
in Ohio.
Okay.
And we became great friends immediately. We're just connected in a way that um, was great. She even stood up at my wedding to a woman I'm not married to anymore, those kind of things. And we were just great friends and supportive and still have been for the last 25 years. Um, Now, the interesting part, I suppose, of our story was back in about 2014, we started electronic medical records in our office, and it was
The re
very difficult.
the reason we started electronic medical records in the office is because it was mandated by the government, and it was very stressful. And we're not 29, so we were used to, charts and paper and pen, and just plus we had computers, but changing everything to computers was very difficult and stressful. And we were developing such anxiety. I had shingles. He was working 10-hour days trying to get everything, dot all the i's and cross all the t's. So he was grumpy, and normally I like to say he's a cross between Yogi Bear and Ted Flintstone.
I love that, Grumpy.
He was
That's very
grumpy.
diplomatic of you, Carla.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
she was very diplomatic
yes.
and had a few conversations with me regarding my grumpiness.
Uh-huh.
Uh, I think she may have called me a few other things because she was willing to talk about anything,
Yes.
and she doesn't have a filter.
No.
Eh, But there was a day she came up because she said I was reading an AARP magazine
Which I don't know if you know what that is.
in New
No.
Zealand.
In New Zealand, it's an a magazine for older people,
Seniors.
for senior for senior people. So, I mean, oddly enough, there was an article in there about meditation, which caught my eye. And I had meditated years before, but I stopped because of our Catholic upbringing that said we could conjure up things. And so when this article came up, it was talking about all the many benefits of meditation, which Dave will go into for you from a medical standpoint.
Yeah. So from a medical standpoint, we, especially after we started to meditate, I did lot of research on it. It lowers blood pressure, lowers blood sugar, lowers anxiety, lowers depression because it actually increases dopamine and serotonin in the brain, which was great because that's what we give people now to try to stop depression.
Mhm.
It lowers cortisol. And this is just an aside note, but cortisol is the hormone that makes you gain weight. And I had been so stressed by many things in life at that time. Yes, that I had gained up a lot of weight, a lot of weight. And so when we started to meditate, I did set a goal because I was trying to be my best self. And during the first year of meditation, I lost 104 pounds,
Wow.
um, which changed everything in life because I certainly felt better. It was much
Because
better.
meditation opens you up and you want to be your best self. This
Yeah.
gave him the little push to do that because his people were talking to him. He could hear them. Um, and so we kept meditating.
We kept meditating, and there was a day. Well, the first day we meditated, it was just peaceful. Soon it became that I felt more relaxed. The office started to become more fun. It was easier to see patients again. I thought, this is wonderful. Then there was a day where suddenly this woman was speaking to me. And I was like, okay, with my Catholic upbringing, I've now lost my mind.
Mhm.
But this woman was jovial, laughing. She kept showing me a shoe. And I knew somehow in my heart it was Carla's mother who had died
18 years before. He never met her.
yeah.
Wow. Gosh.
And
So of course I'm thinking, why the heck is she talking to you? I'm sitting here too.
Like, hello, we've got issues that we need to resolve.
Yeah.
I came out, I said, Carla, you won't believe me. I think I was talking to your mother. She kept showing me the shoe. Carla went to the computer, bought up shoes, I guess ballroom dancing shoes, and there were 60 of them on the screen. And she says, which shoe? I'm like, what's that one?
Wow.
And I said, oh, that's what my mother wore her entire life. It was a short pump, open-toed sandal that she wore for ballroom dancing, for church, or for dress up. And in those days, you just dyed your shoes. They were satin, and you would just dye them to match everything. So she always wore the same type. For him to get that, and then my sister, who also worked at the office, went in the back and brought up a picture of my mother, and she said, "Is this who you were talking to?" And Dave got real emotional. And so, we were like, hey, let's meditate some more. Let's see what else we can do.
Yeah. So of course that day at lunch they wanted to meditate. They wanted to meditate after work. I was like,
Like, get those patients out of here. We want to meditate.
so we kept meditating. And then there was a day when I was sitting there and I had this strange memory of being 3 years old in this life. And I remembered getting in the blue sedan, driving across the country because we lived in Nebraska, driving all the way to Boston, moving into married student housing because my father was going back to graduate school on the GI Bill. He'd been in the Korean War. And then going to the beach. Now, in Nebraska, we don't really have any beaches, and we certainly don't have any oceans. And so I was on the beach as a 3-year-old kid, running. Well, and this is right in the middle of meditation, running along the beach, screaming and yelling. And suddenly I hear this little girl yell, "Be quiet, you're bothering my family."
Wow.
And this little girl ran over. She pushed me down, sat on my chest, gave me a kiss on the forehead. She jumped back up, put both hands on her hips, and kind of swung back and forth at me. And she was standing there in this little 2-piece blue ruffled bathing suit. And in the background, I heard, "Carla, that's not how little girls act."
Wow.
So when he told that story, I said, Dave, that was me. And first of all, my sister and I said, you never told us all these years you were ever in Boston, because we were from Boston.
Yes.
And I was the youngest of 6 girls. My parents were always splitting up, the good Catholic family. And this particular day, my parents were back together, and we didn't have a car. We weren't well off. So Daddy rented 2 cabs, and we went to Revere Beach. And as Dave was talking about the beach that day, Revere Beach just was not a beach. It had an amusement park with it. So we knew he was talking about Revere Beach. And then when he told that story, when we got out of the cabs that day, for whatever reason, me being the youngest, I always inherited a bathing suit. I didn't have mine. Everybody had one. So my parents went across the street to one of those little souvenir shops, and I got my first brand new 2-piece blue ruffled bathing suit. It was etched in my mind because A, my mother never let us wear 2-piece bathing suits. B, I never got anything new. So for him to get that, we knew, okay, another ding, ding, ding. Yes.
So that day we found out that we didn't meet in 1998. We met in 1962.
So
when
can I
we were-
ask you,
yeah.
how long after meditating? Like what are the sort of time frames? Was it like a week? Was it 2 months? Like what,
Okay,
roughly?
Oh,
yeah, it
a
was
couple weeks.
couple weeks,
Okay, okay. Because,
couple weeks.
you know, a lot of, and I say a lot of people who have busy minds don't know how to quieten their mind to start meditating. So, for those
Correct.
who are watching, what would you suggest? What would you suggest from a starting point? Because, we are on this digital media that everything's fast nowadays. So
Mhm.
what would you suggest? I even, battle to sort of sit and go, I'm great going out into trance and channeling and being out in the field. But if I have to really sit with myself, it's the most bizarre thing. It's like, keep your body still. Okay, no, 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 no. I want to scratch my nose. Okay, leave your hand.
So, so the first day that we meditated, I really had no idea even what to expect. Um, Carla lit a little candle, and I did kind of stare at the candle. Um, she played soft music that we used all the time. That really was very relaxing, and I just was almost immediately there, just
Wow.
completely relaxed, and I was so surprised.
He has a gift that we don't, well, you do too. He has a gift that most people don't have. Dave can snap right into a past life and be there immediately.
Yeah.
But he never knew it until he was 50 some years old.
Yeah,
He's had the gift in many other lives, but again, didn't always find it.
and
Yeah,
so
honestly, well done. Like we're both late bloomers, Dave, because I was
Yes,
also.
yes,
yes.
and
So,
so we continued to meditate because it was just fascinating. And then I had another woman visit me, and she told me she was Isabella and that she had been with me for 6,000 years.
wow.
And I was like, okay, I still think maybe I've lost my mind a little. Um, we're fascinated by the fact that we knew each other when we were 3 and 4 and didn't meet again for 35 years. And then, you know, 15 years later, we're meditating and we find that memory out. And we're still trying to cope with these things. And Isabella says, well, I've been with you for 6,000 years since your first incarnation. I'm like, okay, I don't even know what this is. This doesn't match anything that I was taught as a Catholic.
Yeah.
This doesn't teach,
And
I
as a
already thought,
doctor, as a
and as
doctor,
a doctor, this didn't
it's
match,
completely
which is,
far left. Yeah, it's just
Yes.
opposite ends of the spectrum, isn't it?
Mhm.
and so before I tell you another thing, we did start doing a lot of investigating, found that there were a lot of things like your brain has increased alpha and theta waves when you meditate, when you have hypnosis, and some people have seen their past lives through past life regression, hypnosis. The time between wake and sleep, which is frequently a time people have memories. You might remember a dream, but you might remember something that's not quite like a dream.
Mm.
And that might be a past life or a connection to something. Um, Most people who go into a trance also have this increase in alpha and theta waves. And alpha and theta waves are all part of something that occurs in the brain related to memory.
Mm.
So that started to make me wonder a little bit. We did a lot of investigation on reincarnation, but we really started the reincarnation research more after we had sort of the first really next aha moment.
Mhm.
And I was meditating and I had another memory. And this time I'm standing in a dark alley. I know I'm in Chicago and I'm looking,
Illinois.
Illinois, and I look across the alley and there's this woman standing there. She's a blonde, she has blue eyes. I know it's Carla. It doesn't look exactly like Carla, but I know it's Carla.
I'm younger, thinner, hotter.
Yeah, she's got a fringe skirt, she's got a little gold band on her
Dressed like
head.
a flapper.
And suddenly I see two large flashes and I hear a bang and I realize I'm shot in the chest.
Yes.
And I fall back and I know I'm dying and I see things start to narrow and turn black.
You fell out of
and I fell out of bed
Wow.
because I had been, and I was like, oh my, what just happened? The next day meditating, I got more of the story. What happened before I got shot? And it was so interesting because it was so real. And I was like immediately in character. And I'm driving in this little car and we stop in Chicago and I get out with a friend of mine and we run up the steps to Ashland Auditorium. And I know it's Ashland Auditorium because it says so above the building. I didn't know there was such a place as Ashland Auditorium, but there is. And I ran into this makeshift church that was put in Ashland Auditorium because I'm going to the wedding of a man named Angelo who comes to see me in the bank where I work. And I get seated along one side with a friend of mine, and this wedding singer walks out, and it's the woman from the alley. And she's not dressed like a flapper. She's wearing this pinkish maroon raspberry, yeah, that's the color, dress. And she sings the Ave Maria. It's beautiful. I'm mesmerized by her, and I have to meet her. And I go after the ceremony to the reception searching for her. I finally meet her. I talk to her. She tries to blow me off a bunch of times. She finally agrees that she'll meet me for breakfast tomorrow, though I really don't think she's going to show up. But we agreed that we would meet at Marino's, which is still a restaurant in Chicago, in Little Italy.
Mm-hmm.
And we ate breakfast and went for a walk along the Chicago coastline. Now, the wedding was January 10th, 1925. That next day on January 11th, I walked with her along the coastline and she introduced herself as Ruby Donaldson, born in Bullock, Georgia. Parents were James and Anna Donaldson. And she told me she had moved to Chicago to become a dressmaker and a singer. So I told Carla everything I could from that memory, all the things, the details, everything she was doing that.
And including the date.
And Carla went out and started doing some research.
So I don't know if you guys have ancestry.com in New Zealand, but we have ancestry.com that you can get into and look everything up. Past records, census, everything. So I got onto ancestry.com, and one of the things that Dave had given me was that the wedding that he went to was on January the 10th of 1925. That's when he met Ruby. And so I got in and I searched for Ruby Donaldson, found her. It's a very common name, but I found her because I knew the parents' name. Born in 1904 in Bullock, Georgia, to Anna and James Donaldson, one of 11 siblings. There were several pictures of them related to like a census. And then I got into some old newspapers from Chicago and found the wedding of Angelo Genna to Lucille Spinola on January the 10th, 1925, which gives me a shiver up my spine. And what we didn't know was that Angelo Genna was the head mobster before Al Capone. Now, I don't know whether you guys know who Al Capone is, but he was the big mobster. So in Little Italy in Chicago, that's who he was. Now, we know nothing about, of course, we knew Al Capone, but we didn't know anything about Angelo Genna. He was one of the terrible Genna brothers. They were brutal. And Angelo Genna was Ruby's boss, and she worked with him
at a speakeasy.
At the speakeasy. She was the singer and dancer. And Dave did banking with him. Did not know that he was part of the mob because he was very young, but that was how we met.
But Carla, how do you stay calm in finding all this information? Because like I'm getting like goosebumps up my back, and I'm just like, oh my God, what? Tell me more.
Well,
Like,
I
you
was
must have been
calm
like,
for a
what?
little bit until Dave started to talk more and tell me. And he came in one day, this was probably about a couple of months into it, and he said, Carla, sit down. And I sat down and he said, I have to tell you some things. Now, mind you, we're both married to other people. He's my boss. I'm the office manager. And so I sat down and he said, I have to tell you more of the story with Ruby and JJ. And I said, okay.
So I started to tell her more stories that I had learned
Details.
and more details that I had learned. And as I started to talk to her, I literally felt like I became JJ Wright.
Wow.
And as I'm talking to her, it was like I was having the conversation with Ruby. And there was a moment, and suddenly Carla was answering the questions before I answered them.
Yeah, my memory kicked in and I knew details. So I'm like, was it here? Did this look like this? Was I wearing that? Blah, blah. And he's like, yes, 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 yes. And we both froze. Like,
Wow.
ooh,
Be-
because we
we
had
st-
an overwhelming feeling of passion for each other, which we knew was not supposed to take place in this life. So we both ran opposite directions.
Yeah, because we both were reliving the same life at the same time.
Yes. Yes.
And that sent us, yes, running at that moment from each other until I
Yes.
finally came up and said, no, Carla, it's really okay. And, I know what you're thinking, and it's
Yes.
fine. Life is okay.
Yeah.
Don't
Yes.
panic, don't freak out. We have to figure all this stuff out. We will. It's no big deal. Because sometimes I'm calm, sometimes I'm crazy. So that's so we kept meditating. We got more of the Ruby and JJ story. Then we started getting pieces and bits from other past life stories. And over time, Carla is writing everything down.
Everything you could think of to ask, I asked. Everything we were taught from childhood up. What's truth? What isn't? You know, what about this? What about that? And we wrote everything down, journals and journals and
And
journals.
so Isabella would answer questions. We soon found 42 past lives for me,
Wow.
34 past lives for Carla.
Slow learner.
And the part that became very interesting is that we found 29 of them that we shared something together.
Sure. And were they all, because there's this theory, I think, with a lot of people. I know in past lives that I've been in, I wasn't the nicest person.
That's
And
true.
Correct.
Yeah.
there's
I'll tell
this
you part
theory
of
that,
that.
yes, people don't like to almost, I think there's a bit of a fear around going into past lives based on what's going to come up.
Mhm.
And for me, I just look at it, and I'd love your understanding of this. For me, it's like, and you said it so clearly for me, it's the feeling. You can
Yes.
feel that feeling come up, and it's like, oh my God, this just feels so real.
Mhm.
And but then the feeling, you explore the story, and then the feeling for me just passes. Sometimes there's a
Yes.
massive amount of emotion that comes with it, and a massive amount of even
Mhm.
dread at times. I was a Nazi soldier in one of my past lives. Nobody wants to ever think they were a Nazi soldier, but I allowed the emotion, and I'd committed suicide because I just couldn't handle it. It just felt like it was too much in that regression when I was in it. And then they brought me, to the next past life. So I don't know if I have a question here, but it's like, how do you, well, I do, but how do you allow your past lives to come up and surface? Because for me, it sounds like such a jovial experience and how you've refound each other in this lifetime. Yet, were there some gruesome past lives? And
Mm.
Absolutely. So,
There was a day.
okay, so yeah, there
Oh,
was the day again when I came in, and before I was even telling Carla,
you said sit down.
sit down. I don't want you to think terrible of me, but I have to tell you this story. And we,
About you and my former husband.
yeah, yes. And so this was a Mayan life. And I remembered this Mayan life in such vivid details that when I was trying to even tell her, I was going back into it. And this life included everything, including human sacrifice.
yeah,
It was horrific.
yeah,
by the time I got done telling all the stories, I'm crying, Carla's crying.
Mm.
We're talking about Tom, who's was
Former husband.
former husband of Carla, and it's horrific.
Yeah.
Even if at the end of the story it seemed like I was semi-redeeming, I was happy that somebody was killing me because I had been part of this.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
and there was this statement that came out in that life that was, why would we ever do this in the name of a God?
Mhm.
Sure.
And so as we went through past lives, we found, first of all, I found Carla as my sister, as my wife, as my love interest, as a
Neighbor.
next door neighbor.
Mhm.
Kept popping into lives somehow. She was there. And Isabella, because we would ask, would say, well, of course, these people that are in your soul family continue to follow through with you
Yeah.
in many lives. And
Because we return together for one of two reasons: to help each other or to test each other. So we're either family mates or we're karmic mates. So if you get along with somebody right off the bat, that's a pretty good indication. And if you don't get along with somebody right off the bat, that's pretty good indication of you have karma to work out. So be nice.
Okay, I love how you said that because there's so much, I think, confusion around how we do reincarnate and how we do have these karmic patterns. And so every time there's a reincarnation, would you say that there's a pattern that's changing, or is there
I love the way you said it. I love the
Yes.
way you said that. There's something that needs to change. And one of the things we did in our first book is at the end of every life that we described, we actually went in and wrote a few things that we did wrong.
Why we return.
And I don't like the word wrong. And I don't
Negative versus
Yeah,
positive.
yes, because karma isn't exactly punishment.
Mm-mm.
Okay, it's a lesson you have to learn, and it's really about compassion. If
Yes.
you
Oh my
if you
God,
don't
yes.
if
Mhm.
you don't understand what you put somebody through or how they felt, and the only way you can truly do that sometimes is to live in the life that they did
Talk
or
about the
experience
patterns.
the part that they did. And this is when we started to see patterns,
Mhm.
because we had all our lives on a big board, and we were at that time we were putting notes under them, what happened here, what happened there.
Mind
Oh, I'm sorry.
mapping.
Yeah,
Like
so we
detectives.
had
Were
these
you
big
detectives
boards
in past
everywhere.
lives? I feel
Yeah,
like you were both detectives.
Yes.
and as we started to look, and then I saw a series of lives in a row, and we were Vikings attacking Scotland, then Scotland attacking England, then England attacking Scotland. And then Carla was of Viking descent coming back into England. And we started to look at that, and we realized that not only had we been involved with trade against or with or war with or against, sometimes even our own same family.
Yeah.
That's karma.
Mhm.
If
Okay.
you're learning that both sides think they're right and both sides are you, then you started to learn something really important.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that's what compassion is, that you're living on both sides of the same issue because you need to understand both sides of the issue.
Yeah.
And then we started to look at other patterns, and we found times when we were black and white. We were slave and slave owner.
Yep.
We were
Saints and sinners.
rich and poor. You know,
Yes.
you
Yes. It's
find that you
amazing.
find everybody has been somebody important. And I don't mean
Not
important,
important, but historically,
not
noted.
necessarily not necessarily some big name. You're not everybody is the King of England.
Yes.
Okay. But everybody may have been a tribal leader in some small clan,
Mm-hmm.
or and so was in charge of people and made decisions that impacted people. And you've also been the person who's been impacted by somebody else's decision where it felt like you had no choice.
So are those the archetypes? The is it how we say that? I know that I read something about the archetypes of. Would you say that that's because sometimes we can take on those different personalities. You know, sometimes I found that if I'm in a social environment and with friends and we can be joking and jovial, and I say, "Oh, look at the queen! There's the queen! Look at her right
You
now." Because
absolutely,
somebody's
okay,
taken on that like role, and then they're like, "What?"
Yes.
yes,
I'm like, "Yep, you're acting like a queen. I'm not a
you're
slave, you know."
absolutely, Michelle. And the archetypes are ruler, so you might say king. They're sometimes
There's
they're
12.
the mystic or the caregiver, the explorer. There's somebody who thinks they're a hero. There's the innocent who may think they're even the victim. You all have to play every one of those roles. Otherwise, how are you going to understand what somebody else in that role is doing?
Unless your spirit guide tells you not to. In the manual, we talk about how there's 12 astrological signs, so everybody knows their astrological sign, and you can read what your tendencies are. And that's
Wow.
directly related to your karma from a past. So God gives you an angel that's directly related to your astrological sign. For instance, he's a Pisces, I'm a cusp Pisces. And in our past, we were selfish as Ruby and JJ. We didn't think about the other people's lives that we were involving, and thus he was shot. And that, affected a lot of people. So in this life, God gave us the angel of selfishness, which is the yellow angel from Mariel's Legion. And that is to help us. That doesn't necessarily mean we're selfish now. It means we were selfish then. So that's an aid. And in the manual, it talks about traits. There's different traits. There's 12 traits. There's 12 archetypes. But the archetype is the only one that God lets us choose. But we are supposed to listen to our spirit guide on what we choose, because if in a past life we neglected our family, God may say, you should choose a caregiver archetype. And if you say, well, I don't want to do that. I want to be the explorer. I want to have fun and travel. Well, then we will pay the consequence, because
You've made a karmic decision.
yes,
Not to do the decision, not to make the choice
that's best.
that's best. And so there's going to be something you're going to learn from that karmic decision. And there's
Yes.
always something you're going to learn from a karmic decision.
And how do you know it's a karmic decision? Like, how will people, when they get the lesson, is it like a, oh my God, I just got the lesson moment? Or like, is it a,
They'll get the lesson moment, but Isabella was so good. She laid down what she says are really the 5 simple rules. And they're all very tied together. But she said, if you live a life without conceit, jealousy, selfishness, and unforgiveness, and make every decision out of love, there won't be a karmic decision.
oh, I love that. Wow. Is that from your
And
first book?
that's from the
Yes.
first book.
I know Isabella's a part of, I've seen Mother, Isabella, God, I think in both, no, hang on, your first 2 books or your first 3 books?
Yeah, the first they all mention Mother Isabella, God, and
Okay.
Elizabeth.
Because my mother, Isabella, his guide, there was a day when I asked Dave, who's God? And Dave heard God speak
Say,
to him, and he got very emotional.
yeah. In fact, in the third book,
And then we met Elizabeth, my guide.
yes, that's true.
Okay.
And then in the third book, we had
The manual.
you would probably say it was a channeled moment. I don't love the word channel.
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, because I don't think anybody takes over my mind and tells me what to say. So I don't love the word channel.
He just repeats what he hears.
Yeah, it's still my interpretation, because it's not like you hear,
You feel it.
you see, feel. It's completely almost an emotional thing, and then you say something, and it comes out different than I would ever speak myself. but it's the words I feel to say.
It's very proper when he talks. Very
Okay.
proper English as compared to he's from the Midwest, which is not very proper.
Correct.
Seriously.
So,
So
so is this
when
when Isabella comes through? Is that what you're meaning?
Yes.
or God,
So I there's
mhm.
a in the manual, there's a page and a half that's my interpretation of a quote from God. There's a whole quote from Isabella. There's a whole quote from Elizabeth that's verbatim. And then even in the first book, there are times when Isabella will say something, and it's really a quote from Isabella that I'm trying to say. It's not me, and I don't know this thing that they told me.
And let's just say that we're not special to talk to God or Jesus. God and Jesus are available to everybody who can open their ears and listen. And if you go onto any reincarnation sites, you'll see people say this, that they have talked to God or Jesus during a near-death experience, and or while they were meditating, or while they were, quieting their mind. So it happens to a lot of people. God did not walk away and say, I'm never talking to you again. It didn't happen. Same thing with Jesus. Jesus is over all the spirit guides. So there's a pretty good chance that at some point, if you're talking to spirit guides, Jesus is honing in on there too. He's having something to say, even if you don't see him.
Now, Michelle, just because Carla just said those things, my understanding of religion and people's significance that are in, we say heaven because everybody has a picture of what that means.
Yes.
I would say the supernatural world might be a better word, or the unseen realm might be a better word. It's a place where consciousness and your soul, your being, your essence still is.
Mm-hmm.
And where you
When
return.
we're not here.
Yes, and where you return to. It's where you came from, it's where you return to. Um, and again, something you said made me remember this, and Carla said, we started looking at patterns, and we looked at some research done at the University of Virginia Department of Perceptual Studies, and we saw these kids that had memories of their past life, and that's the people they've tried to study, because you can't coach a 3-year-old to tell you
100%.
the story. Yeah.
Yes.
And so they take those 3-year-olds and they go and investigate them, and they found about 2,500 kids that have what they call verified past lives. Well, it's not it's more of a sociology, more anthropology study than it is a mathematical study, but they find enough facts that these kids know, like these kids can identify
The house where they lived.
the house where they lived. They can identify the wife they had in their past life. They know the name of their dog. And those seem like simple things, but there's no way to coach a 3-year-old. And they have stories of where they go in, there's a famous fighter pilot who went down in, I don't know which war now.
Japan, I think.
Went over the
Second World War.
Yeah, Sea of Japan, went down. Anyway, this little boy was talking about the aircraft carrier he was on, the names of people on that, what his name was, and that he knew he had died over Japan.
And it's a famous book now.
Wow.
And so
it's very popular.
And so when he did all those things, his parents thought, no. But they told somebody who got to a researcher at the University of Virginia, and they went out and they found the aircraft carrier, and they found the manifest with his name on it. And they found the other people that he knew on the same boat. And they found that he was the only one on his aircraft carrier that went down.
Sure. Wow.
And so you start to see those things, and you start looking, because about 20% of those kids have intermission memories of the time between lives, and they remember seeing people that have passed before them. They remember seeing their loved ones. They
Beautiful angels.
beautiful angels and beings of light. They remember a past life review of some kind. And as they go through the past life review, they know that people assist them. A council of some kind assists them in planning the next life. And then you start to look at people who have near-death experiences. They see beings of light. They have this sense of love and joy when they're there. They don't want to necessarily come back, but they sometimes have a past life review, and sometimes they're told they have to go back because they're not done.
Yes.
And I compared that to my intermission memories, and they were the same kind of things. And you realize that everyone is having the same kind of experience that talks about this. And then you start to realize that there's some part of this that's a specific connection that you're making to somewhere that's not here. And you realize that this spiritual you and the physical you are somehow combined, but they're not, it's not complete until it's both of you if you're in this world. And it's complete without your physical being in the other.
So would that be, and I'm just going to go back a little bit because I had a very real experience Saturday that's just passed. Have you ever had that moment where you meet somebody or you see them, but there's just almost feels like there's this wall, and
Mm.
as much as I would like to believe I'm relatively happy and smiley, okay, and I think quite presentable at times. And I was at an event and I was smiling at this woman. We had a big group and she gave me nothing. And I got this very moment of
Mhm.
you've been in a past we basically have killed each other. And I thought, okay, just put that out because I was gonna bring through the Council of Eight that night for this group. And then a friend of mine did a past life regression with us afterwards, and lo and behold, because this woman was like, if I had to say, stoic, and the more I kept smiling at her and was scanning the room and just sort of connecting with individuals, nothing. And I was like, man, there's something here. Then my
Yes.
friend Jill Cole did a past life regression, and lo and behold, like she had burnt me to the stake, and then in the very next part of our past lives, I had stabbed her, and I was like, "Yep, there it is." Like
There
Yes.
it
it
is.
was like this instant, but I could just feel it. And would you say that happens with a lot of us? That when you just meet somebody and you have
Okay.
this,
Oh,
we would call it a vibration where we just get our backs up and we go, "Woof, what is this right now?" How would you
There's
explain?
a there's a girl in yoga class, and I've known her for many years. I've never had a conversation with her, but she just stares at me like you were saying ever since I first met her. So we just recently, like in October, started going to regular yoga classes, and she happened to be there one day. And I said to Dave, I don't know. I've known this girl for a long time. She glares at me. She says, like if I'm doing a certain pose, she'll speak out loud and say to the teacher, is your leg supposed to be up or down? Like whatever I'm doing, she'll bring it up. So we went home one day and I said to Dave, ask Isabella, what is the story here? Sure
Yes.
enough, in the 1500s or
yeah.
1400s, when we had a life in Rome, I was the illegitimate daughter of Pope Paul III, who, by the way, was my stepfather in this life. And because he had my mother as a mistress and me as an illegitimate child, he would send a housekeeper over. Well, she was that housekeeper and she did not want to be there. But what she started doing, because she was very poor, she started stealing from the household. And my mother recognized it. And my mother got a basket together and gave her all kinds of stuff. And the next time she came to clean, she gave it to her without saying a word. Well, that infuriated her because she wanted to feel like she was getting something over on us. And she's
Ah,
carried it with her. And she still has that, for whatever reason. She doesn't even know why
of
she
course.
has this animosity towards me. But the best thing for me to do is I just stay away from her. I don't talk to her because I don't want to create more karma. And she just continues to make little snide remarks. Just this past Monday, as we started to walk out the door, Dave was doing a certain pose and she said, "Oh, well, maybe you can take him home and practice the pose." And she was very catty about it. And I thought, oh, I just can't say anything. So yes, it does happen and I feel it.
Okay, so that's, I, I can't find my words. Let me go back. That leads me into you do not interrupt or go into what you've explored. Because if you had to go and share that with her, would you say that you're interrupting in the karma or the karmic cycle or the karmic pattern? If you said to her, by the way, and she
Yeah,
wasn't open up to working with past lives, are you
yeah.
then interrupting in the pattern, in the matrix? Are you then stepping into her journey? Is that a good thing? And what?
I love the way you put that,
Mhm,
because Isabella says everybody's on their own journey.
mhm.
They've got their path that they have to go. If she's not going to be accepting of this discussion, it's not it's not ready for her. It's
No,
not her time to have that discussion. To force that discussion on her in some way violates her own privacy, her own path, her way. So you can't force those discussions on people. You
Yes,
can interact with those people as positively as you can.
yes,
There's a certain group of people that Isabella said, the reality is there are people who will be almost toxic to you.
mhm.
And if you allow someone who is toxic to you to injure you, it's actually almost selfish. You must stand up for yourself.
okay,
Or back out of the situation so that you don't create more karma.
Yeah. So you can't keep throwing yourself in their face.
If you try and they're not willing or open, then you shouldn't do anything about it. I have two sisters that have nothing to do with us because they are sure that Dave is Satan.
Yeah, yeah.
And they are totally closed to anything reincarnation. So I have to stay away from them because when I'm around them, they try to tell us that we're evil and we're doing wrong. And I say, how can you say that we're evil when we're just telling people to have love and compassion? How can that be wrong, no matter what you think about reincarnation? So it's just easier if you're going to create more karma for yourself, stay away. Now, our yoga teacher, we never said anything to her. And one day she came up to us and she said, "My girlfriend told me to Google you, that you've written books. And I'm interested in all of that." So she started asking, and I
that
all the
opens
while,
the field. That's
It
yes.
opens the door.
And all the while I kept getting pictures of her from past lives and I knew it, but I couldn't say anything to her.
yes,
And so sooner or later, when she brought this all up, she said, "Well, I want you to regress me." So she came to the house and we regressed her, and that kind of satiated her. But so in that case, we could do it. But in our very past life, it was very short. We were Katie and Johnny, brother and sister. I was 6, he was 4. Again, we were in Chicago, Illinois. And on Christmas Eve, 1944, we were playing on our third story staircase. Our mother, Rose, was downstairs wrapping our Christmas presents, and our father was a fighter pilot in World War II. As we played, we fell to our deaths and broke our necks.
wow.
And so, where am I going with this?
I hope I'm going down the path of
Oh,
bad things happen to good people, but we'll talk.
that we are not allowed. Those relatives are all around still, but we are not allowed to contact them. Isabella told us absolutely not. That
Okay,
we,
because sorry to
yes,
interrupt you. This leads me
yes,
to it almost sounds like, okay, and I hope this doesn't come across being disrespectful or personal, because I've had
no,
this in the last few days about contradictions.
yes,
Yeah.
The Council of Eight will come through and say one thing, our soul's journey is our soul's journey,
yeah,
yet we have free will. Okay, so
yes,
Correct.
with compassion and love, because like you're speaking about your sisters in this lifetime,
yes,
what is the difference between us protecting ourselves? Because I'm still learning this, because my husband has this very good radar and he has such good um, like he just gets the vibe, and he's like, and he said this to me for years, Michelle, walk away. And I'm like, no, but I'm here for love and compassion. And, I am
Yes,
the light, and then
yes,
but
yes,
I end
yes,
up the one being hurt.
exactly.
And even in my label of being a medium, my mom, who was very religious before she passed over, would say the same thing. Michelle, you're speaking to Satan, you're speaking to the devil.
Uh-huh.
I'd say, wow.
Yes.
So sorry, I get so loud. I can hear myself getting loud because I get so
No,
excited. So please tell me if I'm too loud. But
no.
how do we learn to protect ourselves, okay? And be the light, be love, be compassion, and at the same time though, know that it's okay to not have those people, like you said of your sisters, to not
Yeah.
have them in your space. Because is it because they're speaking down to you or speaking about you? How do you know the difference?
Well, I asked Dave to ask Isabella. I said, what should I do? Because I mean, even now I send them Christmas presents, birthday presents, they don't respond at all. Um, but for me to not be around them, Isabella said, if they are toxic to you, stay away from them. Because if they push your buttons and you allow it to happen, then it's my fault. It's not their fault. Because I know it happens. And unless we're saints, and it sounds like you're a lot like me, if somebody is attacking me, you tend to defend yourself and you're not allowed to.
Ah,
And it's not that you're not allowed to. So I got to get,
It's the way you do it.
Yeah.
Yes.
the only thing in life you truly can control is your reaction.
100%. Yes. Yes. And
Okay,
we're from
that's the
South
only thing.
Africa, so South Africans, we're pretty on, we're still learning to feel safe in our own bodies.
Yes.
So that's what I've learned over these years of being in New Zealand, is to just be in the space, hold space, listen. And I'm not talking from it's easy when I'm working with clients, but family and the ones that trigger me the most for me are my biggest
Yes.
teachers, because
Yes.
I can
Correct.
feel my body go whoop, especially when it comes to
Mm.
people who are perhaps saying something about my children. Mama Bear comes
Yeah.
out, and
Yeah.
then I have to just go, okay, Michelle, just breathe yourself back in.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Yeah.
that for me is the challenge.
And so I
Yes.
don't,
Me too.
there are so many, and Isabella again always goes back to the conceited, selfish, jealous, and unforgiveness issue
Ask
every time.
yourself every time.
And so if somebody does this to you and you have a reaction, is it because you think you're better than them?
Mm.
Do you think you're always right? Do you think this? Because that's not correct. If somebody if somebody stirs up jealousy, that's really your issue. That's not their issue.
Yes.
And there's always this point that almost becomes a little uncomfortable when we talk about it. But if you're in a horrible relationship, but you think, I can't get out of the relationship because I'm married, I can't do this, I can't do that, I'm going to lose everything, all those are really all very selfish thoughts. And you're certainly not being your best self.
And on that note, Ruby was owned by Angelo Jenna, the mobster. He was my boss. He beat me. He raped me. He gave me to other men. But in this life, I married him. He was my first husband. So, but if I would see him today, we could get along. He doesn't know any of these things, but I am fine. I'm fine with it. Now, my second husband,
You got to talk about though, because part of it, Carla is fine with him,
yeah,
and Carla also walked away
I walked away from him. He
from
couldn't own me anymore.
the owning.
Yeah,
So sometimes you have to make an action,
yeah. He was
because
very possessive
to
and
let someone
abusive.
own you is also selfish.
My fault.
Yes.
Yes.
And
So I
may I
walked.
ask you, how did you work with those feelings of your first husband, who beat you and raped you? And so when it comes up in a past life, because I work with trauma, I work with, humans who are grieving, myself included, and part of even my South African background, I'm still working through, things that come up. So how did you work with that in the moment? Because it is feelings, isn't it? It's a feeling that comes up. So you know the story, but the
Yes.
body's still feeling what it's feeling. And you know,
If
even to
you
hear somebody who's,
understand
yeah,
that you're an infinite human being,
yeah,
nobody can destroy you. Nobody can hurt you, harm you, murder you. You are going to last forever, number one. Number two, remember, everything works for a reason. Perhaps if I was getting beaten in another life, I beat them. In
yes,
this particular case, my um, task was to walk away from being owned because it was lazy for me not to. For me to stay there because it was easy was wrong. I had to go and inconvenience myself, start all over, not have any money, do all of those things because that was the right thing to do than to just stay there. So if somebody says, my baby died, why did God do that? Your baby was never meant to live. Your baby just stepped in to help you for a second. Somebody around you was
Or
supposed
you
to learn a lesson.
needed a lesson.
And it was okay because that baby is infinite and so are you. Don't worry about that baby. That baby's loved. That baby probably came back to you or somebody else close by, so you don't have to worry.
yes. Beautifully put. So I wanted to ask you with Isabella and Elizabeth,
Mhm.
when you say, because I sort of sit on the fence as well. I call myself a channel, but for me, it almost creates separation, but there's no separation because exactly what
Mhm.
you've just said, we always are connected. I use the example of this plant behind me, or there's three plants in this pot, and not one of them are going, oh my God, like, you don't belong here. They're just growing in harmony together, and then the one just grows out
Oh,
and says, okay,
that's good.
That is
we're going
very
to
good.
Yeah, I
create
I
like
love
it.
together.
that. That's a
Yeah.
great way to look at it too, because
Yes, often
there,
I use it as an example because it's just like, oh, okay, everything's under everything is connected, even with, the mycelium that's connected, and as above, so below. So, how would you describe your connection with Isabella and Elizabeth?
so
Tethered to God.
yeah, I don't like the word tether because some people use that, and I don't think there's any actual golden cord or whatever you want to call
Yeah.
it. None of that. If you want to visualize that, that's great. But I don't exist without Isabella anymore.
Hmm.
It's and the connection is there to the point where I'll have a conversation with her, and sometimes I'm not having a conversation, I'm getting a lecture, and sometimes I'm sharing my feelings with her. I'm like, I think it's this, I have this conversation, with her in my head, and I come to my own conclusion.
He thinks.
And I,
Yeah.
and then she
Yeah.
says, exactly,
Yeah.
you already knew that.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Or or she'll say, why didn't you think or ask yourself this question? Oh yeah. If I ask that question and I know the answer, then I already know what to do.
Mhm.
And is it the same for you, Carla, with Elizabeth?
Well, I hear Elizabeth differently.
Okay.
Um, I can talk to Elizabeth. Usually I'll hear in my left ear or between wake and sleep. Um, but it's like if I'm wondering about something and all of a sudden, a thought jumps in and I'm like, oh, I wasn't even thinking along those lines. So I know she's talking to me, or we'll be watching someone on television and I'll hear her say, oh, well, they were so and so in a past life. And I'll go, Dave, do you know what she just said? I mean, and this happens like when we watch American Idol or, different things like that. So I'm not able to have the conversation like he can. I mean,
Yeah.
I can, I just can't hear it. Not
Yes.
all the time.
So I know that you spoke here of your different planes.
Hmm.
Earth
Okay.
equals plane one, plane two equals where we wait to reincarnate, plane three equals life review or atonement, plane four equals angels, spirit guides, other guides, animals, and workers for God. I love that, for God. Excuse me, plane five equals over the horizon slash heaven, plane six equals love united for God, plane, oh God, I think I've gone over that. Sorry, God. I'm apologizing to God. You see, I'm in denial. I need my glasses.
There you
I
go.
understand that
Oh,
so much.
Okay, plane 6 equals love united for God. Plane 7 equals belongs to God.
mhm.
Once all souls have returned to God into plane 5 and 6, all will go to plane 7 together with God. Other questions regarding atonement, jobs for God, animal reincarnation, and soulmates. So, oh my, there's so much in there. Like, I feel I'm going to have to have both of you back again because let's start with Earth equals plane 1. How did the
Okay.
two of you see and sense and feel into Earth in these moments in time?
Okay. I think I understand your question. So part of this is was discussions with Isabella.
All
Certainly,
of it was
yes,
discussions with
it is.
Isabella.
So
Yes.
plane 1 is directly related to your lowest vibrational state, the state that is physical, that is tied to this physical side. Everything else is on the other side. Everything. And so if this will make sense, as you raise up that, so when you first, after your first life, let's say you return, you've got some mistakes, you're going to go to a highest level because you're going to go to plane 3, where you're going to meet counsel, your spirit guide, your angels. I don't love the word ascended masters, but I get the term, and really the term, Isabella always says the term doesn't really matter because it's a language that somebody understands.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I agree with you. The labels is what we get stuck on, and
Yes, we
Yes.
talk
something
so
that,
much about labels and then people don't understand
Mm-mm.
the concept.
Yeah.
yes,
She says, but there are those people from your soul group that are done, that are waiting for you. And some of those people in your soul group, you would be surprised are in your soul group because it might be somebody who you know is famous in the past. So somebody may have Gandhi sitting on their council. Who now? It's not Gandhi because Gandhi's been all these people,
Yeah.
but this person may have been Gandhi in the past. And because they were very wise, some people will say, well, then he must be an ascended master. Well, he has experience and has completed his journey. We all want to complete this journey. So certainly having someone in your soul group who has completed the journey show up to talk to you while you're going through a past life review makes sense to me. You would want someone who has already mastered this to help you, to show you what you did wrong.
hmm,
And again, I don't like wrong and right,
Negative.
but if you were at war and you see yourself at war and you're shooting the enemy, and in your past life review, while you're shooting the enemy, you feel the sorrow of the widow left home.
hmm,
That makes you have compassion. You're following orders while you're shooting the enemy. It's not even a decision. It's a this is what I was trained to do. The compassion is learning that you left somebody behind. You might have left somebody behind in your life. That person left somebody behind. That's the cost of war.
hmm.
It's not necessarily your life because you were meant to be there. There's some reason you were in that moment. But the reason you're in that moment is so that you would feel someone else's loss.
Mhm.
Yes.
Or help somebody.
And so if there's somebody wise who's explaining that as you're going through this past life review, why am I hurting? Because I feel the sadness of the wife.
Yes.
That's because if you don't know how they feel, how will you ever show that real compassion? You almost have to experience their loss. And
For
so
sure.
that will happen during that time. And if you have a counsel that's helping you, and even though Isabella even breaks this down when we're talking about God, and she says, I'm nothing but this direct line from you to God. And she says, I'm never separated from God, just like you're never separated from me, which means you're never separated from source creator God, ever, because we're all one connection all the way through. And when you return, all these connections sort of retract into one. You become one again
On plane 7,
on plane 7.
when we're all done.
And so as you go through the planes, as we were saying, you have to go closer to plane 3. Your vibration has to be raised for a period of time where you're going through atonement so that you are in closer contact with those who don't have to come back. And they're all on a higher plane than you. So you have to get closer to them. They can come down some to your plane, and you can raise up a little to their plane.
Yes.
And all the connections that all mediums are having are really a connection with someone in a higher plane who has lowered their vibration enough to reach you, and you have somehow raised yours enough to reach them. And so they want to reach you. And if you open that portal, as I found, I call it that in meditation, and I don't like to use the word portal because I don't think it's a doorway.
Just to open yourself.
If you open yourself up and they open themselves up, the vibrations can get close enough together that we can communicate.
It's phenomenal because it's like for me, this is the life that's playing itself out. Can be the past, this is the present as we're talking right now, but that's
Right.
already the past, is what you've just spoken about, and this is the future, so it's like it's there's so much of what we are relearning, I believe, in these times of what so many people perhaps have gone into a fear-based state.
Yes.
For
Yes.
me, I'm so excited because I've seen so many people wake up in these moments and say,
Yes.
all right, there's got to be more. There's got to be more. And like you, I didn't come from a Catholic background, but I came from a Methodist background. And it's quite funny because I was having a dream last night and a remembering of me as a young woman, a teenager of 17, 18, standing outside one of the top clubs in Johannesburg, okay, which is just ridiculous now that I think about it. But these standing outside a club waiting for these drunken people to come out, trying to save them with the Bible. I mean, who does that? Like who? And when I went through another wake up in my early 30s, I just realized there's got to be more, because I was like, okay, I've got to go back to church. But yes, church gives you a sense of community, the tribe. It gives you that
Yes.
coming together, which I can
Yes.
Right.
understand why people go to churches or have their religions, because there's a coming together of something.
Fellowship.
A fellowship, great, yes.
Correct.
Yes.
But there's more. There's more that's out there that I've realized over time, and just with what you're expressing and saying, and there's so much to learn, and you speak of the council a lot, and it is fascinating because they've shown me that one of the energies is Gandhi, and it's the energy that passed through. So how do you hold on? Like, I want to say, how do you grip onto Isabella? How do you grip onto Elizabeth?
You don't have to. They've got you.
They've got you. That's funny because one of the quotes in the manual is Isabella says, whenever it feels like you're pulling away, I pull you tighter. And as I pull you tighter, God pulls me closer
Oh, beautiful.
because we'll all be together.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Because God will not let you go.
Like any loving parent.
So true. So true.
And so that at least brings up a little bit the second book, which is Hell No, Reincarnation. There are so many religious issues out there that it's even hard to address. As long as you realize that it's approaching 40% of the world's population now believes in some form of reincarnation. It's growing exponentially. even in the Catholic Church, 20% of the people say they believe in it, even though it's an absolute no doctrine. In most Christian churches, that's true. It was part of the Jewish faith.
Kabbalism still
And
exists.
Kabbalah still exists, which is that mystical portion of Judaism, which still delves into reincarnation. Because I had to know more, but because I was Catholic, I went back and I started to look. Certainly there are many Bible quotes that are very much open up the possibility of reincarnation. So if you're even a biblical literalist, you can find something there. If you start to look at the path and you look back in the old Hebrew, in Leviticus, they used the word kata. And that was the Hebrew kata. It was a Hebrew Aramaic word. It's the word that became translated as sin after it gets through to English, through Latin, through Greek, through hundreds of languages till it gets to English. It's the word sin. The definition of kata was failed to reach your goal, and what you were supposed to do is try harder. And that's the word that we now use as sin, which
really means reincarnation.
Yeah. So if you try harder and you have a loving God, what is the most absolute divine justice and divine mercy that could exist? If you truly did something and you couldn't finish it, or you didn't do it the best you could, then I will give you another chance. What is more divine mercy than that? Yet, you will have to deal with the consequences of your action because you are responsible for you.
But I won't tell you to go to hell, because God doesn't do that.
And which loving parent does? If you find out that your child has stolen someone's pencil at school, do you immediately banish them to the garage and they never get to come home again? No. You don't do that. You give them another chance. You try to teach them their lessons.
Yes.
And really, that's the story that this reincarnation story is.
So how do you know when you're not going to reincarnate? Does Isabella and Elizabeth share that with you? Is this your last lifetime together, or not?
Well, they only know. We hope so, but we're slow learners.
So I think you'll understand this, Michelle, because this is Isabella's sort of cut line on this stuff. She says, if you were meant to know your future, you already would. Because if you know what's going to happen, you can no longer have free will.
Yes.
Which means you're no longer responsible for your action.
Yes.
Because the action would be predetermined.
Yeah.
And so I can't tell you what you're going to do, and I can't tell you what will happen, because what will happen is based on how you react.
Yes. Beautiful. Now, for those humans who are learning along their journey, and we're all learning, okay? So where was I going? Protection. This is where I sort of sit on the fence, because I was at an expo last weekend and I'm there to be there and to interact with, many other human beings, and it was delightful. And one person came to me and said, "Have you protected yourself?" And I was like, "Huh? What do you mean?" Because if we are of God, which we are, how do we protect ourselves from others, that perhaps have a lower vibration? And that even sounds egotistical as I'm saying that, but can you give us some guidance or some advice as to, even if you go into a social environment and your yoga class as an example, you know that woman's going to be there, okay? Do you send out spirals of light beforehand and hope she's going to be at the other end of the class?
No, I pause and I ask myself every time, are you reacting out of compassion? Is it jealousy? Is it conceit? Is it
unforgiveness?
Unforgiveness?
Because they know they have an issue,
Yeah.
And she doesn't know if the issue is forgiveness or not,
Yes.
including forgiving yourself. You got
So
to
it's in
always
that
throw that in.
moment. Sorry to interrupt you. It's in that moment, if you had what I would call a knee-jerk reaction, it's still your reaction. So you're not coming from that place of compassion and love.
Correct.
That's right.
Correct.
Okay,
So
got it.
stop yourself, slow yourself down. When you're going, my sister and I have a joke. When we're going down the road and somebody's behind us and they keep honking or riding on our tail, we say, they must be on the way to the hospital.
Yes.
That's what you have
Be
to do
patient.
that.
Just be patient.
Yes, yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
be patient with the rest of the
Yes.
world that hasn't been on the exact journey that you have.
Just the other day, we were on a podcast and the guy said, what about, and I don't know if you know who Jeffrey Dahmer is.
Yes.
Jeffrey, okay. He was asking about people like that. Well, we just watched a show on Netflix about Jeffrey Dahmer. And afterward, we had the discussion with Isabella. And she said, first of all, nobody knows what Jeffrey Dahmer's life was like. You don't know what Jeffrey Dahmer's former lives were like. So for us to judge, that's not for us to do. That's for God to do. And everybody has the chance to become their best self and to move up the planes and to make it to heaven. And it doesn't matter what they've done. We have all been saints and sinners. I poisoned him in our fourth life. So we have all done terrible things. And it isn't for us to go. We went to a Universalist church once and we were talking about Nazis. And one Jewish man said, I would never forgive a Nazi. And I said, well, you should, because you're the one that carries it inside of you.
Yeah.
You're carrying the wound.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you can't forgive.
So just forgive and don't judge and just keep your nose clean.
Yeah. Keep
Assume
your nose in
that-
your business. That's what I often
That's
say.
it.
Keep your
Correct.
nose in
That's
your
exactly
business.
it.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
on the other side, you did say something about protection. I think, and you can ask your spirit guide to protect you. You can ask for a gatekeeper.
When you meditate, for meditation and those purposes.
Yeah. So that if you're connecting with someone in the spiritual world who is going to return,
Mm-hmm.
so hasn't learned every lesson, who may harbor still, some negativity, if you want to call it negativity, ask them to just not let them speak to you. Or if you're speaking to them, stop. You get to make that decision. They don't get to keep talking to you just because they feel like it.
Yeah.
And
Make the
there's
decision
no
to stop.
demons and devils or anything else that are going to come in and attack you. God wouldn't do that. And if you are in meditation mode or in vision mode and you see such things, it's because you're conjuring it up from a past life or something that's pre-programmed in your head. So just forget it. Come out of it.
Yeah.
Most people that have a near-death experience have a very positive experience.
Yeah.
There's a few people that don't. And those are the people, when they come in, they say, I went through this past life review, I think, and I saw, and anyway, I realized I was in hell and I was burning. Well, literally there were people who burned. People were burned at the stake.
Nero burned the Christians.
Those things
not the
did
Christians,
happen.
Yes.
So what you are remembering may not be that I went through hell, it's that at one time you actually burned.
Yes.
So there is no hell.
No.
Hell is what we make it. If you let life torment you, it will. Even if this life is not everything you want it to be, this life is but just one moment in your journey.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been thousands of years before this moment and thousands of years after this moment. And most of those moments are going to be filled with love because our time on earth is very short, considering the length of time of eternity.
Yeah. That is so true. And that's a beautiful way to part because I think that my heart is so full just talking to the two of you. It really, really is. And I'd like to know, do you do one-on-ones on Zoom? So if anybody's looking to do past life regression with either of you, do you offer that?
Okay, so we have never done it on Zoom. Part of that is,
We trained with Dr. Brian Weiss and his wife not to do that as a career, but we do it with our friends and family and, each
people we
other.
know, and if somebody requests it, we don't charge, we just do it.
But find a reputable regressionist. Don't just, there's so many out there that are only in it to make money, and you can feel that. And don't be anxious. Don't run out and do it just because you want to be the Queen of England. Do it because, and the other thing is, your spirit guide is only going to let surface something that has to do with your journey and improvement. So if you think you were the Queen of England, it may not ever pop up because it's not necessary. But find somebody reputable. No, we don't do that. But if you email us, we'll respond.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, so if people go to our website, which is thegiftofpastlives.com, they can email us. I'll, even if they email us, give them recommendations of people I know that do it on Zoom. Since we've never done it on Zoom, I'm so comfortable doing it in person, and I can connect so much easier to people when I see them than I can on Zoom. It just is.
Yeah, awesome. And your books, where can people find your books?
Well, certainly they can find links to
all of the books on our website.
On our website, thegiftofpastlives.com. It'll give them the connection. It's available on Amazon,
wonderful,
Barnes and Noble,
local bookstores. They can order
local
them.
bookstores. It's available in New Zealand somewhere.
Okay,
If whatever your normal.
I can send you guys a photo.
I've been to England, and you can go in and do it in England, and you can get it on multiple different sites there too, because all the local bookstores can at least order it.
Yes. And is there another book coming? Can I hope?
Well, we have one that's finished. It needs to be edited, but it's more of a meditation book. Yep. And we've started another one, so I guess we're on the 6th one.
We're on the 6th one. 4 of them are out there. The Gift of Past Lives with Mother Isabella, Guide, and Elizabeth. Hell No Reincarnation, which has some religious doctrine and some history and some other things that help people if they're, and some of the research on reincarnation.
And 7 of our past lives.
And the 3rd book is the manual, because Carla never got the manual, so she wanted to write it. It talks about the 12 astrological signs, 12 archetypes, 12 traits, and how God uses those traits life to life to guide you through the lessons you need to learn.
And then her Hooba and His Rose. This is a book from the Second Temple period in Jerusalem. We are not the main characters. We did have a life there. It's actually a novel, but it was dictated to Dave by Isabella verbatim. I just cleaned it up, and because she speaks very proper, I edited it. And that's all about, it's a love story.
The most amazing experience is, except for the preface, a little bit of history that we had to give people just to put them into their time frame.
Yeah.
Isabella started on page 1 and dictated the book to the end, straight through, in like a month. Wow. Straight setting. Just we'd come home, sit down, talk, go through it, get up, go down. Carla would be like, "We got to go back so that I can hear more of the story."
Yes.
Wow.
And we are characters in this novel. So I encourage people, if you read her Hooba and His Rose, email us and say, "We think you're so-and-so. We think you're so-and-so." We're not together in that story, but we are both there, and we have an integral part of the story. We're just not the main characters.
We interact with each other.
Yes,
right?
yes.
That's incredible. When you bring Isabella through, I know you said it's one of the same, like she's with you continuously. Yeah. How does that happen in your journey and yourself, or with you and Elizabeth? Do you go into a meditative state or space? Or
yes, I'm going to say like when we, like I can do it right now, but it's really, it's almost like, there she is. Okay. I know
I'd
she,
love to hear her voice if I'm not overstepping the mark, because you've spoken of her voice and how posh she sounds.
I don't think she's posh, but
She talks more like old proper English.
that's
Wow.
maybe.
There's no
See, I,
slang. In
I hear
fact,
that as posh, it's going to be.
just
Yes.
well, this is so funny because every once in a while, I will say a word that begins with an F, and my mother and Isabella will chime in and go, fuck, 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 fuck. They're hysterical. They are
That's,
hysterical. My mother was English, and my mother would say, she never used that word. It was improper. Ladies never use that word. So now they'll jump in and say these things, and I die laughing. We just think it's so funny.
Apparently, by the way, Carla, using the
Yes.
fuck word
Yes.
uses 72 muscles in the face. So I'm very, very
See,
okay with it. That's why I look so
I
really
I
young.
love it. I love it. She's talking to him right now.
yeah. So,
Okay, awesome.
so Isabella says, the time is not now for us to talk, but she would love to speak with you at some time in the future.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I tell you, I look forward to that. Thank you for coming through.
Yes.
Yeah, awesome. So, from my heart to yours, I am so, so grateful for this connection, and it's been amazing, wonderful. I have so, so much love for both of you, and it's so fascinating for me because I have to calm my body down because, like I said
Mhm.
to you even before I started recording, I can feel when our energy is just like in flow and it's and it's
Yes,
in harmony. I don't even know if that's the right way of saying it, right or
it
wrong.
is.
And it's like I sit here because I just feel like I'm this rocket ship that just wants to go, and
Yep.
there's such a beautiful
I
connection.
understand that.
Hmm.
Yeah, so thank you so much for joining us, and I'll put all your details in underneath this. And from myself, my heart is so expanded, and I've learned so much from both of you today. So thank you for your openness and your joy and your love and your
We feel
compassion.
you, Michelle.
Yes, we
Thank
do.
We know your eyes. Yes.
We will find you.
We'll find you. You're somewhere in the past. I know it.
I know. I was just going to ask the same thing. I was like, "Come on,
Yeah.
can we
I
find this?"
usually get a signal after I start to see, um, like the Long Island medium, she gets like a sign somehow. I'll see you in certain attire and I'll know, oh, she was there in that life. So
Ooh,
it'll
We'll,
pop
okay,
in.
we will find you.
Yes.
awesome. I look forward
Your
to that.
eyes are enough,
Yeah.
are warm enough, and the smile is unmatched. So we will find you. It'll
Yes.
be easy.
I look forward to that. And if you want to explore this on here,
Yeah.
I'd love to hear that because I think
Okay.
it's so many people are like sponges at the moment. They just want to learn. And I'm most certainly at that stage, and I'm always like, okay, there's more. Oh my God, there's more. And it amazes me that there is always more, isn't there?
Yes.
So
Hmm.
thank you so much. And I'll find you. Keep looking for me.
I
Yes,
will.
we will. We will.
I'll see you in the ether somewhere.
Okay. All
Guys,
right.
thank you for joining us on Keeping It Real, and thank you to Dave and Carla. And again, as you all know, please like, comment, subscribe. I'm not the best at asking for that, but I believe it builds, I don't know, whatever it builds on YouTube. So thank you so much. And thank you for joining us, Dave and Carla. Lots and lots of love, guys. Have a beautiful day. Bye.
You
You
too.
too.